Yeah, I'm excited to be back. This is a pretty different track than we were at the last event. So Laguna Seca is very, very tight and slippery track, and here we are at Daytona, where you got lots of wide open spaces, really long straightaways, and a little bit of a mix of some tight corners. So we're going to see a lot of different racing today. Right. I mean, on the difficulty level, I would say the Cadillac is a little bit easier than the Kia, but it's still one of the more challenging cars to drive because it has a little bit of understeer on the first half of the corner, and then it has so much torque and power that it's very naturally oversteering on the second half of the turn. So trying to find a fine balance and driving that all the way through the corner is the big challenge with this car. And Daytona is a very interesting place for this car for that exact reason, because you can really kind of use the car's legs on the straightaways, and this car is almost going 180 miles an hour on the longest straightaway here. But then you're also going 30 miles an hour on some of the tightest corners, so it's a huge range of performance on the car for Daytona. Yeah, I agree. I think it looks like the field is a little bit more spread out than it was at Laguna Seca in lap time, but I think we saw at Laguna Seca that anything can happen, especially with the number of pit stops that we saw at Laguna Seca. Kind of positions were changing all the time, so I think anything can happen tonight as well. Right, and another really interesting point for the Cadillac in particular is it's not a very easy car on tires. It's very easy to kind of overdrive the car a little bit, and the temperature in the tires just kind of goes through the roof, and you lose all your grip. So it'll be very interesting to see who can kind of run that fine balance of speed, but also being easy on the tires today, because even running 40% fuel level for that entire stint, these tires don't want to last that long, so it'll be very interesting.
Here we go. Adjusting the brake bias.
Um, so I've probably only ran 3 races there, but one of them was one of my first national championship with SCCA was actually at Daytona. So I spent an entire week for that event down there at the track. So a decent amount of time. That's the only race that I've ever won there was the actual national championship. So it was fine by me. But I've ran a couple of IMSA pilot sport car challenge events there, and had a lot of mixed results. But I know how this track, especially if the cars are close enough, drafting is a big deal at Daytona.
Yeah, I spent some time with a couple of folks that are in tonight's race, and they were, we spent some time during the week practicing and yeah, trying to draft up on each other a little bit onto the straightaways, but then also just practicing, that car control and that following close into the turns here, and being able to anticipate the driver in front of you and how they're going to drive the line, and then trying not to run over people. So hopefully some other folks have had that kind of practice as well.
Right, right.
So, okay, well, again, I think I just want to apologize everybody for the technical difficulties we had tonight. I think now my audio is coming through, and Kevin, they were already able to hear you, so they're only getting half the conversation, the commentary, but they're probably getting the better half of this duo we've got going on here right now. So, looking at tonight's setup, looks like we're gonna have 8 drivers in tonight's
Clear away that
event,
lap.
and that should be a pretty good series overall. And just for those out there watching as well, Operation Motorsport's looking to expand our iRacing program. In about a month or so, we're looking to stand up an actual league and start bringing in some championship points and start maybe a single car series or a single car league for now, and start to professionalize our this side of it a little bit more as we kind of grow this program as part of our diversionary therapy program. So if you know of anybody out there that might want to participate, please have them get in touch with Operation Motorsport. You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on
What? And
LinkedIn,
all of a sudden now that thing is supposed to go everywhere.
and join us because we definitely would love to have you.
She's a handful.
So we're also able to hear some of the drivers talking about how the car's handling tonight and getting some of their feedback as they're getting ready to grid up here in about 5 minutes and do a pace lap and then take the green flag. We're starting to see some times come in. So right now, it looks like Theo is he laid out at 147.9. He's the fastest car to have qualified so far. Then we got Richard Haslett and then James Gleason right now sitting in P3. So we just crossed over the 5 minute mark here of qualifying. Again, due to the way iRacing has everything set up, we are unable to bring you video of the cars as the drivers as they pilot around the track, trying to lay down, you know, 2 fast laps or their best time within 2 laps in order to see where they're going to qualify tonight. But in about 4.5 minutes, they're going to be gridding up and they're going to follow the Porsche pace car for 1 lap around the track before they take the green flag. Again, tonight's going to be a 35 lap or 70-minute session, and each car will be starting off with 40% of their maximum fuel load, and that allows for the drivers to bring in pit strategy and potentially make up or even possibly lose positions depending on when they pit or how they pit. And it's very, coming off that banking here, coming down to into pit lane, have to get that car woed down from 150 miles per hour plus down to about 55 miles per hour can be challenging, and can definitely open you up to a pit lane speeding violation, which is going to hold you in the pits for about 26 seconds or so. Starting to see, looks like Richard Haslett has moved to P3 with Joe Kintz setting a lap time of 148.67.
That's all fun.
They're behind Theo, so a couple guys in the 149 range and 147 and 148. Jacob. Seeing coming across on the driver's chat that Tim Bernard is having some technical difficulties on his end. He's trying to get his computer back up and running so he can connect. Hopefully he can get in before the green flag or before the car's grid. I'm not quite sure how iRacing works. If you try to join the session once the race is underway, if somehow you can potentially start from pit lane, or if you're just locked out altogether. So we're just under 2 minutes away from qualifying coming to an end. If there's anybody still on track, definitely, hopefully they're on that second lap here, because it's we're seeing times right now. The best being a 147, some of the times being in the 149, 150 range. So if you're not on that second lap, you're quickly running out of time to qualify. Okay, so again, qualifying is now coming to an end. In the next 10 seconds or so, the cars will start to grid up, and we're going to have we'll have the grid for you here in a minute or so. Looks like Hunter Reeve just joined us, so looks like right now, though, unless something changes in the notes that I have, Theo is taking P1 tonight in qualifying. So he'll be leading the pack out tonight. He had a 147.96. Jacob Williams there, 0.3 seconds behind Theo. So we got a Canadian and an American leading the cars there behind pit lane, and we'll see how things go as they get ready to, after that pace car drops down into pit lane and they take the green flag and come off into turn one.
Well, let's just play where we're at.
Right. The top five here are a lot closer than they were in practice. Actually, the top four, in fact, are just separated by a little over a second. So it'll be really looks like it's going to be a tight race up there. So
Not gonna lie,
really excited to see that. And I'm really curious. Some of the guys that doesn't look like they posted a time.
It's all right. We're here for fun, man.
Interesting to see what their pace is once they get going as well. I know a lot of them had some laps in practice, so I'm sure they're ready to go.
Nope, I think you're right, and you know we've got a mix in there with experience level as far as those that did not qualify. You know, some of our
Yeah,
drivers
turn
are
one might be
relatively new to the
weird.
iRacing series, but again, they may just try to lay back and just let the guys out front get going. Could be a little bit of strategy. Sometimes here at iRacing, you know, you can't win the race in the first lap or the first turn, but you can definitely lose it. So you know, maybe they're expecting, you know, some car-to-car contact, and you know, they might be able to leapfrog ahead of somebody that way.
That's right. But I still personally, I think it's a lot safer to be up front so that you don't get caught up in someone else's accident. But definitely, the start's always the most nerve-wracking part. So let's wait and see how everybody plays it through the first turn.
Absolutely. So looks like everybody should be gridded up by now. Just waiting for that pace car to get the go-ahead from race control and lead the pack away here from the start-finish line. And the pace car is just now taking off. Again, the cars will do about they'll do one lap around the track. The pace car won't get above 55 miles per hour, and you know that depending on where you're at in this track, that feels like it's going to take forever to get around this 3.5 miles.
Right. I mean, this Cadillac goes so fast around Daytona. 55 miles an hour is feels like you're walking beside the car. So it's pretty amazing how much speed the Cadillac can build up around the oval at this track. So it's pretty fun to watch.
Absolutely, I think we'll see some cars, you know, probably hit 182, 183 potentially miles per hour on the banking and you know the big parts of the track, and maybe even a little bit faster with potentially some drafting coming.
Right, and that brings up a really good point. Daytona, if you think about the NASCAR races there, drafting is king. So it's a couple of the cars are really close up front, so it'll be very important for some of them to try to use that draft to their advantage if they can.
Absolutely. So, cars are just coming out of the infield here. In fact, getting ready to get onto the banking for the first time under this pace lap here with the pace car. This is definitely a tricky part of the track. The nice thing here, though, is there's a lot of runoff. So if you don't get it quite right, you know, you got a lot of room there for error, but you can definitely lose a lot of time in getting out of that banking and starting to get the car up to speed as quickly as you can.
Right, and even the transition from the kind of infield to the banking itself can be a little tricky sometimes. So you have to make sure you kind of make that transition pretty smooth, or it can upset the car.
Absolutely. So you can kind of start to see the cars get bunched up here a little bit. This is where it feels like you're going really, really slow as you're coming down the back straight here, getting ready to drop into the bus stop.
Yeah, in real life, when you're going this slow on the oval, it feels like you're gonna fall out of the driver's window in the car. It's unbelievable how steep that banking is.
Absolutely. I really did not appreciate it until I saw it for the first time this past January when I was down here for the Rolex 24.
Yeah, it really is a sight to behold, this track. It's amazing that they built something like this so long ago. I think a lot of us forget that this track isn't a brand new track. It's been around for quite a while now.
Oh, absolutely. So for those of you who are wondering why we see some stands in parts of tonight's event where they're not actually in Florida anymore, is because this is the 2008 version of Daytona International Raceway. And the reason we're not running the most current version of Daytona is because that's a $15 track here in iRacing, and we try to keep everything down and cost affordable for all our beneficiaries to where they can come out and compete with just the basic subscription without having to upgrade cars or tracks or whatnot. So that's why this version of Daytona may look a little bit different from others. And the pace car just dropped off down into pit lane. Theo gets ready to take the green flag. May have now just taken the green flag. I can't tell though if the number 10 there may have and the number 32, if they may have potentially jumped the green flag. And looks like Theo just made contact. They're coming into coming out of turn 1.
Yeah, seems like a little bit of carnage. There's several, maybe 3 or 4 cars off in the first turn, so a little bit of argy-bargy already out there.
Yeah, we just come back there. Jacob Williams was up there. He was one of the cars that kind of got punted off the track there a little bit. So Jacob, though, is a great driver. If he keeps his head down, it's very early in this race. It is possible he can make up some of those positions he just lost.
Right, after we watched his race at Laguna Seca, I think he kind of started a little bit farther back there too and made his way up. So I think he's got what it takes to get back to the front. He's just going to have to use some time to do it.
Start to see the cars starting to make their way onto the banking now here for the first go around. We're going to jump back up here to Theo. He's coming onto the back stretch. He's going to be dropping down here to the bus stop. Let's see how he takes it here in this first lap.
Pretty smooth through there. Didn't look like he was sliding the car at all. Very nice and tidy. It looked good.
Yeah, he did. Looks like everybody kind of got through the bus stop there for the first go around relatively cleanly. Theo's now down into P2 with Joe Kent's getting by him and taking over the P1 position.
Yeah, it was a really nice pass on the front stretch there, using the draft a little bit to his advantage, and then got through turn 1 really nice and clean and has a little bit of a gap now.
Over here with Joe, taking a look around, see if he makes his way here through the infield. We got Will Babineau jumping into pit lane. I wonder if he had some damage he had to come in and get taken care of. So it kind of looks like everyone's starting to get settled in here a little bit. And Richard there putting 59 putting a little bit of pressure on Theo as they came into the bus stop. Looks like though he let up just a tad to go ahead and give Theo enough room to get through there. I gotta imagine trying to put two cars there side by side through the bus stop would be probably not a very wise choice.
Yeah, it's possible to do, but you really have to have a lot of trust in the competitor that you're running with. It's a difficult set of turns to go through, as we see Theo pull into pit lane.
Yeah, just saw that. Joe's just laid down the fastest lap. Oh, got Richard there in the 59 in the tires. I can tell you from experience, if you get into those tires, the car is kind of stuck, and you need to do a reset in order to get yourself unhooked and go back to pit lane. So we're on board with Jacob Williams. You know, he had a little bit of a rough start here a couple laps ago there on lap 1 coming into turn 1, but he's definitely made it up. You know, he's back to where he started the race up here at P2, so currently 2.7 seconds behind Joe up there who's leading, but I somehow have a pretty good feeling that Jacob's going to be there a little bit closer as this race goes on.
Right. I mean, I think we saw that at Laguna Seca. He had a little bit of ground to make up, and he didn't really force himself to do it all at once. He just made little improvements over time, and then found himself in the lead during some of the pit stop exchanges. So he might be doing that again. Maybe even just kind of trying to make sure he stays in touch with the leader, but then just trying to stay clean the whole race.
So makes his way through the bus stop. Nice smooth action in through there, and definitely piloting the car very quickly right now. jump back here to P3. It's James Gleason. He's in the red number 6 Cadillac here tonight. James is kind of new to iRacing this year. Just kind of came to know about it with the whole COVID-19 stuff and people being at home, and was looking for a way to kind of find different ways to do different things. I introduced him to it, and he's taken to it pretty quickly. So he's currently running at P3, and right now his fastest lap of the night is a 150.54. So I think if he can keep that pace up, he's going to be up here in the top half of the pack at the end of it.
Right, and I think we saw in general at the race at Laguna Seca, there was a lot of carnage, a lot of little mistakes where some spins and some damage. So I think it's really important to kind of run a pace that you feel like you can make it all the way to the end. So I think James did that at Laguna Seca, and it looks like he's doing it again here. So I think it's a great strategy.
I agree. Just going to jump back here and take a look at Tim Bernard. Tim is an Operation Motorsport beneficiary who's activated with us last year at Watkins Glen International, worked with Miller Motorsports. Right now, though, again, another newcomer to iRacing. He just joined a couple weeks ago. He's not new to sim racing per se, but definitely new to the iRacing format and joining us here. This is his second race. Right now he's running in P4. So obviously you can tell he's put in some practice, I think, during the week. His fastest lap time right now is a 152.7, but definitely not a number of seconds behind the leaders. But again, drives a good clean race tonight. He could be right there, I think, in the top half of the pack. We're now on board with Hunter Reeve. That nice gold 046, sporting the neon green wheels. That would be a very difficult car to miss anywhere if you saw that out and about. As he comes through the bus stop, his fastest lap tonight is a 147.98. In fact, he just jumped there up to P4. So he's definitely in a position, if he keeps up these types of laps, he could be up there, contending for P1 at the end of this.
Looks like Hunter's heading to pit lane, maybe for his first fuel stop.
Yeah, lap 5. That would be, I think, a little early for these cars to be coming in for fuel. But again, maybe he's playing a strategy here. He's short pitting a little bit, lessen time, how much time he's got to take with fuel, and then maybe he's going to try to do this. Maybe he figured out the math to try to do this in a two pit stop race.
Right.
Here we are with looking at Will Babineau, the number 14 red Cadillac. The nice black striping there on it. Will is a Army veteran who's been an Operation Motorsport beneficiary, worked primarily with Core Motorsports and the Mustangs in the Michelin Pilot Series. Last year at VIR were Nate Stacy and the team took their first win of the year, and then he had the opportunity here at Daytona during the in January to work on the new Aston Martin that Core Motorsports just procured.
And he's in an awesome battle here for position. So they've been going back and forth on the banking here as he brakes just a little bit too late in turn one.
Yeah. Takes out a couple of cones, but again, the nice. Oh, then we got some contact there. Cars are flying through turn 1 there. The nice thing there about turn 1 is if you don't get it right, carry too much speed, there is a lot of runoff there. As long as you don't get yourself into the tires, you can usually get it gathered back up and back underway.
Yeah, it's such a tricky brake zone because you're not only in the Cadillac going over 180 miles an hour, but you're braking from the banking back to the infield. So you kind of have some odd transitions to go through, and it's such a hard brake zone to judge.
Definitely those who are doing it right and consistently have spent a lot of time practicing coming off the banking and down into that first turn.
That's right.
So look at the number 10 here of Joe, trying to get by Will, put him a lap down. They come here through the bus stop. On board inside the cockpit here with Joe, and right along with him for a lap to kind of get a sense of what Daytona looks like from the driver's view. Will went a little wide there, and Joe was able to take advantage of that and kind of sneak in on the inside and negotiate that turn.
Yeah, it looked like Joe was being a little cautious just to make sure he didn't make any mistakes around lap traffic as well. So definitely driving pretty smart up front right now.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know, if you're coming up on lap traffic, you definitely don't want to put yourself into a position, especially when you're leading the race, to take yourself out of it. On board with James Gleason right now, who's currently running P2. He gets ready to come onto the banking. Oh, got a car off here to the left and makes contact. Well, I think that right now was Will Babineau in the other red Cadillac.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate for James coming onto the banking. It's some of these turns are so tight you can't see all the way around them, so that's always a risk.
Okay, so James unfortunately is back in pit lane getting reset. He's going to have to make his way back on track and try to fight back up to the front. Here we are with Jacob Williams right now, who's currently running P2. His fastest lap of the night so far is a 1:47.41. We're back here with Timothy Bernard as he makes his way through the bus stop. He's currently running P3. I think, Kevin, we've definitely have seen where, you know, car contact tonight is definitely shaking up the field a little bit. You know, we've got some folks who normally might be running a little bit more towards the back of the track or back of the pack. Definitely, you know, up here near the front. So fortune shines on them a little bit. They're in a great position to have a great finish tonight.
Right, and that's where it's sometimes better to be just a little bit more conservative, and it's not always all about lap time. It's more about staying out of trouble, and I think we're seeing exactly that tonight.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's one thing, you know, to catch a car on this track, but you know, I mean, from my view, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of passing opportunities unless you can really set somebody up and, you know, and maybe get them on the banking or maybe get them on the straights. But, you know, it almost seems like, at least again to me, that when you're on the infield here sections, you're just kind of following and hoping the guy in front of you makes a mistake that you can take advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, this track is really interesting because really your main passing zone is trying to draft by on the oval somewhere. And most of the time, if you can get a good run out of the bus stop, you can maybe get a good draft and get by before turn one. But other than that, really it's all about outbraking maneuvers into the hairpin. So this track is definitely pretty difficult to pass.
We're back on board here with James Gleason, who unfortunately had an incident about a lap and a half ago, but it looks like he's back underway. He's up in P4, so he was in P2 when he had the accident, had to reset, go back to the pits. But again, I think as guys have gotten strung out here a little bit, you know, it didn't set him back too far to have a good finish tonight.
Right, he didn't. Doesn't look like he quite went a lap down. So I think the main thing for him right now is to kind of put your head down and run some laps. And you never know when misfortune might come to some of the cars ahead of you, and you might be able to make some of that ground back up.
Yeah, we're on board here with Will Babineau, running in P6. He's moved up 3 positions tonight since the start of the race. He's currently a lap down. So he's getting ready to come into the bus stop. Pretty nice and smooth actually through there. Maybe a little low on the speed side of it, but you know it's about getting comfortable in the car. It's about getting comfortable with the track, especially when you're doing this type of competition and series, and you know, just go out there and turn some laps and have fun.
That's right, and honestly, driving through the bus stop like that is going to be a lot more rewarding in the long run, because if you try to overdrive it through there, then you end up spinning and having lots of frustration. So I think this strategy is a really good one.
I agree. So this is coming to turn 1. They're a little bit wide, but again, a lot of runoff area in turn 1, and he gets the car gathered back up relatively quickly, and gets himself back underway. So you know, driving very smooth, very well. Looks like he's sticking relatively to the racing line overall. So that should increase his confidence and make him faster, you know, as the night goes on.
That's right, and basically, if you can kind of position the car where it's supposed to be, it's a little better to kind of drive a little bit lower speed to try to minimize little mistakes like that.
Yeah.
But in the end, as long as you can kind of learn a little bit from each mistake every lap, or maybe pick the speed up a little bit, it's all worth it.
Yeah, and fortunately for Joe there, who's currently running in P1, you know, he was able to pick up that Will kind of went a little wide there, was getting ready to come back on track, and you know, Will did the right thing too, kind of kept the car a little bit off the racing line to let Joe go by, and that impeded his progress. Okay, here we're on board with Steve Grubb, Canada. He's got a nice little photo for us added to his driving profile tonight, so I appreciate that, Steve. We're running a driver profile option here with the SDK gaming overlays that we're using that allow our drivers to add a photo if they like, to kind of their overall their overall name and their association with Operation Motorsport, what country they're from. It just helps us identify our Canadian counterparts, you know, for us down here in America. Steve's fast lap of the night so far has been a 153.56. He's made up 3 positions since the beginning of the race, but overall he looks to be driving fairly well, picking up some good speed, getting ready to come down here into turn 1.
Yeah, you can see him braking a little bit early there to keep from sliding wide, like we've seen from several of the other cars tonight. So you can just tell how it's very difficult to get it right. You can sometimes brake too late, sometimes brake too early. So it's definitely this is a challenging track.
It is. It absolutely is. Jump back up here to the front to Joe. Again, he's running P1. Fastest lap tonight, still a 1:48.71. Not the fastest lap of our competitors tonight, but he's definitely running good sequences throughout and good overall average speed to keep him up front.
Right, I think he's done a pretty good job of staying out of trouble so far. I think we've seen several other kind of accidents behind him, but he's somehow kind of stayed out of those, and he's been able to kind of, to some extent, kind of put it into cruise control and just make laps up front. So kudos to him for that tonight so far.
Jump back here to James Gleason, who's made up one more position there over Theo. He's now running in P3, trying to get himself back up there, to contend for the front. Overall, having a very good night, even after some earlier contact, and definitely looked like he's overcome that and will continue to do so if he keeps up this pace.
Right, and actually his last lap was the fastest lap that he's run so far. So I think he's kind of got his confidence back and trying to gain some time on the leaders now.
Yeah, we'll see how how the pit strategy comes into play tonight as well, because again, that's going to be a good opportunity to potentially pick up some positions, or again, depending on when you take them or how you exit pit lane or how you enter pit lane, excuse me, could hurt you as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the speeds that the cars are going before they get to pit lane is pretty high. I think they'll be going over 160 miles an hour when they need to hit the brakes for pit lane. So making sure you don't overshoot it will be really important.
So we see James go a little wide here into turn 1 and get the car gathered back up underneath him. Now, battling for first, as we see Joe Kent's drop into to pit lane there, so Joe's most likely coming in for fuel.
Yeah, it looked like Joe may have been struggling with maybe grip on his tires a little bit. He had started to slide around a little bit more than he had in the previous lap. So I wonder if that stop isn't just for fuel, but it's also maybe to do a change of tires.
Joe is back up underway, getting ready to come out of pit lane. So let's see where he comes out in front of James Gleason.
Yeah, the pit exit is actually pretty tricky because you have that wall so close. So it's also, you have to be pretty careful when you're leaving pit lane so you don't hit that wall with cold tires.
Oh, absolutely. That's a quick turn. Quick left turn you got to make in order to not hit the wall. Back up front here with Jake Williams as he gets ready to take the car down into the bus stop. He has a 28-second lead right now over P2, so he can basically just put himself on cruise control, just work on picking up his markers, hitting his spots, braking at the right spot, hitting his turn in and track out points, and just manage the car and put down consistent quality lap times.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the difficulty when you have a lead that's this big is kind of staying focused enough not to start making mistakes because you're not pushing the car anymore. So looks like his lap times haven't really slowed down much from his previous 3 or 4. So looks like he's already in a comfortable zone.
Looks like we have other drivers starting to come in for their pits. So Stephen Grubb just dropped into pit lane for his service. This is kind of what we thought we might see tonight, Kevin. Somewhere, maybe around the 15 lap mark. I mean, this might be a little bit earlier than at least I was expecting, but starting to see cars that start to come in for their service around this time in the race.
Right. I think if everyone's starting to pit now, then I think it's definitely going to be a two-stop race. So it'll be interesting to see if everybody can, if everybody has to pit this early, or if we see some cars stretch it all the way to the 15 or 20 lap mark.
Well, if you can stretch it to 20 laps, then you're definitely going to be in position for to complete this on one more stop. But yeah, it looks like Theo's into pit lane right now as well for his service. Back on board here with Joe. This is piloting here around in P2 on the front stretch, getting ready to pass the start-finish line.
Yeah, it looks like Joe's on a mission to try to close that gap to P1. I just see a little bit more aggression in his driving style than he before he made that pit stop. So I think he's kind of a little bit more on an attack mode right now.
Yeah, hopefully though he doesn't wear his tires down too quickly with that, and he can get back up to 10. Avenue just finished up his service and is coming back onto the track. Yeah, we're watching Joe here get ready to drop into the bus stop, and we got Jacob up there now, just getting ready to cross the start finish line. So that gives you some sense of distance between first and second right now. Jacob Williams just now dropping into pit lane for his service. So that should allow Joe to go ahead and retake the P1 position. Take a look at Theo here as he makes his way through the infield, getting ready to take the car back out onto the NASCAR part of the track.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm a little surprised to see Theo back in fourth place here. He was so fast in practice and qualifying, so it looks like maybe a couple of unfortunate events have kind of kept him from really realizing his potential from speed this weekend so far.
Yeah, he's currently in P4. His fastest lap tonight in this race has been a 149.06, so he could definitely get himself up there potentially. We'll see how things unfold though. Here we're on lap 16 to 35, 30 minutes of this 70-minute session. So not quite to halfway yet, but definitely seen some exciting racing so far tonight. Jump back here to Will Babineau again. He's making his way here through the infield. Just trying to try to keep the car clean and nice, consistent laps, hit his marks, and just gain experience and more confidence. To carry him into Silverstone in a couple weeks. So this is Operation Motorsport's second to last race of our inaugural race series that we started up about a month and a half, almost 2 months ago now, I guess. We're going to finish out at Silverstone across the pond in the UK here in about 2 weeks, and then we'll take a little bit of a break as we pick up a new format and put together an iRacing league of Operation Motorsport. Supporters, beneficiaries, military, and veterans, and definitely if you or if anybody out there that would like to partake in our upcoming iRacing League, please reach out to Operation Motorsport. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all the major social media players, or you can visit us at our website and contact us there as well. So Kevin, if you can, kind of just tell us what you've been up to in this hiatus. But how are you preparing on coming back to the real track here in a few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, for the last month, I've really just been trying to prepare for our return to real racing at VIR, and it feels like a dream come true because we're going to be back on track about this time next week at VIR, and I can't be any more excited. It's normally I don't spend this much time not driving cars. I'm always in something, so I'm definitely itching to get behind the wheel and go and see what we can do.
I can only imagine. It's such a passion for you, and especially coming from the grassroots level. Oh, just see Will here, kind of probably get on the gas a little bit early and see the rear end of his Cadillac come around on him. So he makes his way through the grass here and gets ready to come back onto the banking. But going back to it, Kevin, I can only imagine though from a somebody's coming from the grassroots level up to the level of competition you're at right now. It's got to be thrilling that you're going to be back on track next week at VIR, and I also just want to say thank you for your support to Operation Motorsport and our foundation, and having Chad join you again after the success you had at Circuit of the Americas earlier this year.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have Chad back with us, and definitely the VIR is going to be a little bit of a strange event because unfortunately the no fans are going to be able to be at the track, but fortunately we were able to get Chad in to still help us. So I think we're going to be in a good position to do well at VIR. It's one of my favorite tracks. I grew up not too far from it, so I'm looking forward. This is probably one of my favorite tracks on the schedule this year, honestly.
Well, that's great to hear. I can imagine that hearing that in your voice just tells me that you're already coming into it with a lot of confidence of not only yourself but the car and your team and just how you're going to perform. So that's good to hear. We can't wait to see you back on track and making your laps around there. We're on board here with Jacob Williams, so just past start-finish line. He's currently running in P2, trying to cut down that about 11-second gap right now up to Joe up there in P1. And we're starting to see Joe here too come into some traffic, so he's got some potential traffic here in front of him he's going to have to contend with, and Jacob might be able to take advantage and close that gap even a little bit faster. We're starting to see that time come down a little bit more, about 9.5 seconds right now.
Right, they're running very similar lap times, so I think it's really coming down to who can get through the traffic the best right now as the which way the gap is going to go.
James Gleason. He's running right here in front of Joe a little bit as James comes out of the bus stop. Joe's just making his way into the bus stop, so there you can kind of see what that gap is right now. I'm sure James does not really want to go a lap down, but at the same time, you know, when you got faster cars, the best thing to do is just kind of hold your line, stay predictable, and let them get around you at a safe spot on the track.
You know, Jason, I don't think I've seen anybody stretch it this far on a tank of gas. So I think everybody's going to be on a two-stop strategy to make it to the end.
You may be right. So we're on board now inside with Joe as he's getting ready to come onto the banking here out of the Daytona International Speedway infield. So try to make his way up there and get past James Gleason. Wow, from this angle, the gyro camera, you can really see what this banking looks like and what the drivers are experiencing the G-forces that come from this type of banking.
Yeah, it's a completely unique experience. You don't really get anywhere else. The first time you go around the banking at speed, it's really hard not to just be in awe.
See Joe come out of the bus stop here. He's getting ready to come back onto the banking again. James Gleason's just laid down his fastest lap of the night at a 148.9. Joe just hit a 149.35, so yeah, I think James Gleason up there definitely does not want to go to a lap down, and he's trying to keep himself from doing such.
That's right. There's some motivation there for him to pick up the pace, so that's good to see. Babbitt right now, the gyro cam as he drives behind James. And, should see Joe starting to come on a little bit. See the rear-facing camera that is on board of all these Cadillacs that allows the driver just to kind of glance down and see who's behind him or get a sense of traffic coming up on him, besides also his mirrors. Some of the more sophisticated technology-driven cars like the prototypes, especially at night, rear-facing cameras also have radar on board to kind of pick out how far that car back is and tell you, what the gap to it is and whatnot. So definitely a lot of information for the driver just to give them situational awareness so they know how to negotiate with the other cars in their class or different class cars that they will track with them. Here tonight, though, for the same type of car, same class. So you see now back on board with Joe. He's come down pit lane, coming in for his service. So this should be his last service of the night. Yeah, he should be able to make it to the end from here, based on the number of laps we've been doing so far. So I agree. I think he should be good to the finish.
I don't see the car going up in the air, so I think he's just getting fuel.
He must be pretty confident in the way the car feels right now and trying to save some of the time that it takes to change the tires. So definitely a good strategy to try for sure.
Okay, we're back up here in the front with Jake Williams. He had just passed the exit of pit lane, so he'll stay out in front of Joe. Theo's back up to P3. On board with him right now. So he makes his way onto the front stretch and starts to come towards start-finish line. Timothy Bernard's just dropped down into pit lane for his most likely his last service of the night. Now with Stephen Grubb only running back in P7 as he gets ready to come into pit lane as well for his last service of the night. Jacob Williams is coming in with him as well. Again, starting to see cars making their last, what we anticipate to be their last pit stops of the night for at least fuel, if not potentially taking tires as well. We're at lap 23 of 35. 42 minutes into this race of the 70 minutes allotted, so hopefully we'll see some good racing here in the closing laps.
Yeah, it looked like Jacob did not take tires either, so a little bit of some gambling going on to try to make up some time in pit lane.
Start to see Jacob start to come back out here on track. Again, like you indicated earlier, through that tricky pit exit. Back up front here with Joe in P1. He's got almost a 4-second lead right now there over Jacob Williams. So Jacobkins is definitely going to probably be driving a little hard as he gets that car back underway, coming out of pit lane, trying to get back up there and compete for the top spot.
Yeah, I think Jacob may have made up a little bit of time in pit lane over that, because I think he was a little farther back than that before they both went through the pit stops. So definitely the pit stops are playing a role in the finish, just like it did last week.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the notes here. The last pit stop, Joe spent 16.5 seconds at pit lane. Or at his stop at least, and Jacob spent 12.5, so that's a 4-second gain right there. Joe just laid down his fastest lap of the night of a 148.31. Jacob trying to make up that 4-second gap up to P1.
Right, it looks like Jacob can actually see him out of his windshield now, so it's a little bit easier to be kind of motivated to go and chase when you can see the car ahead, because it's not so far ahead anymore. You can kind of see your target and go after it, so you definitely know that he's motivated right now.
Oh, absolutely. Being able to see that car up in front gives you that target, gives you something to focus on, and as you get a little bit closer, you can start to see maybe what that driver in front of you is doing a little bit different than you are, and maybe try to set yourself up on where you can take it, or where you think you might be able to take advantage of them, their driving style.
Exactly. It's important to kind of measure up the competition and see where they're good and where they're not as good, and try to figure out a strategy on your part of kind of making the puzzle pieces go together to where you can kind of make a pass attempt. So I think he's a little bit too far away to be doing that right now, but he's definitely seeing the car, and he knows if he's gaining or not, and that's what's really important right now.
You see though, Joe just getting a little bit faster again. Just laid down his best lap of the night at a 1:48.03. So I think Joe knows he's back there, and he's definitely hitting his marks and picking up a little more speed just to make it a little harder for Jacob to contend.
That's right. It's really tough to do when you know the car's behind, and it's really easy to push a little harder, but it's really tough not to push too hard that you start making mistakes. So right now, both these two guys up front are driving really fantastic, putting down really good laps to be this late in the race.
I'm looking at the. We got a car off track here in front of Jacob. Fortunately, was not as that car was coming back on the track, was not going to be an issue. I'm just looking at the different sections of the track here, and in Sector 1, Joe's a little bit faster at 15.8, but I look at other than that, they're relatively equal. Well, but to Sector 5, where Jacob's a little bit faster. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Kevin. Looking at the data, they're pretty evenly matched right now.
Yeah, it may come down to where each of these cars encounters traffic from now to the end of the race to really know whether the gap is going to change or if it's going to stay like this.
So we have Theo in for his last pit stop of the night, along with Stephen Grubb. That allowed James Gleason to jump up into P3. Like that interval between P1 and P2 is just getting a little bit bigger there, almost up to 6 seconds.
Yeah, it seems like both the top two cars are pushing as hard as they can go with what the car has left right now. So definitely it's going to be a little bit easier for them to make mistakes. So discipline is going to be the key to the end of the race, I think.
I think you're right, Kevin. As we get ready to as we're approaching the 50-minute mark of this 70-minute race. Lap 27 of 35 now complete. Oh, and here we see Jacob Williams getting into contact with Stephen Grubb. It's going to slow Jacob down just a little bit as he gets the car gathered back up underneath him. Doesn't look like it hurt.
Yeah, he came from pretty far back, so I'm not sure if the other car saw him coming or not.
So yeah, it looks like he lost about a second there with that contact there with Steve. So well, I'd be remiss though if I didn't thank Jacob though for running the Operation Motorsport livery tonight. What we're seeing there on his Cadillac, the number 32, is his own design through Trading Paints. So I do appreciate him showing his support for Operation Motorsport and the series we have going on here tonight.
Looks like Jacob's going to head the pit lane,
Yep.
maybe to repair some damage that he got from that contact.
Yeah, he may have knocked the suspension settings out a little bit or something, or just doesn't have quite the same steering response that it did, or something to that effect. So hopefully he's not in the pits very long, and he can get back on our way. But yeah, that unfortunately, with at least no stops we anticipate from Joe, that may have just made it a bit too difficult for Jacob to make up the timing tonight.
Right, that may have kind of taken his challenge away. So Joe, I'm sure, is seeing the gap get a lot bigger right now.
Ooh,
As
yeah,
Jacob has a spin on the pit exit. So
yeah, so again, maybe a little upset about that contact, that maybe brought him into the pits. The adrenaline, the aggression being a bit much, and unfortunately, just again did a little more damage to that car.
yeah, that's pretty unfortunate because Jacob had a really good race going for him so far tonight. So definitely, at this point, it's best. Sometimes the races go this way, so it's best to kind of just relax and make sure you kind of get your head back into a good place and just make sure you make it to the finish.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I just hope he doesn't have too much front end damage there. It's going to cause him to have to come back in and for more repairs, because it's just going to potentially make him more frustrated. Yeah, it definitely looks like that front left suspension tire's sticking out a little bit more than it should be, or maybe it's just the fender being banged up, exposing more of the tire. Speed-wise, it doesn't look too bad, but yeah, I just don't think he's gonna have it tonight to get back up to the front. So we'll jump on board here with James Gleason, currently running in P3. Kind of had an up and down night a little bit. Qualified P5, but for the most part has kept himself out of trouble. And Kevin, I think that's going to be the story of tonight. Is which driver had the least amount of incidents and didn't get caught up in too many other issues that they were able to avoid and just try to run good, clean laps.
That's right, and I think James has done a really good job at that. I know we've seen him make a few mistakes tonight, but I think it's pretty clear right now that he's learned from them, and he's kind of settled in at a pace that he can maintain, and he's doing a great job out there. And right now, it's paying off with a potential podium finish.
Absolutely, he's in he's in a position here too. He could potentially, depending what happens there with Jacob Williams' car, if he had any more damage there from that accident coming out of pit lane, he might be able to jump at least one more spot.
Right, it looks like he's making up quite a bit of time on Jacob, so he still has potential to finish even higher. So great day for him so far.
Okay. We see Joe Kent's dropping into pit lane. It's a little bit unexpected.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just a little bit of a security stop. He knows he has a big gap, and maybe just trying to stop to make sure he can make it to the finish, just in case it was going to be close.
Timothy Bernard as well dropping down into pit lane. So here we are on board with Joe as he makes his way out of pit lane. Comes back onto the track. Back on board here with Jacob Williams now. Well, he must have jumped in and gotten that car repaired, because I'm not seeing any of the damage that I saw a lap or two ago.
Yeah, I think he did that because he was losing quite a bit of time to James Gleason behind him. So he wanted to get that car repaired so he could try to salvage a second place finish.
Yeah, I think you know, I can only imagine that front end damage he had. You know, trying to get that car up to 150 miles per hour plus. 180 in some spots on this track. Just without that front nose being the way Cadillac designed it, it's got to wreck your top speed.
Yeah, and top speed is so important at a track like this where you spend so much time full throttle.
Okay, now we're taking a look at Theo as he's running P4 right now. Again, Theo was P1 tonight. He had pole. Had a little bit of challenges and difficulty here throughout the race, but he's been able to make his way up and get up into the top half of the competition tonight. So even though he had some minor setbacks, still perseverance, drive, and keeping his head down and focused. Looks like he's going to come out of tonight's event with a respectable finish. We're on board now with Will Babineau. Started running in P5. And the focus tonight for Will has just been, gain more confidence, being around traffic, being on a challenging track such as Daytona International Speedway, but still being able to, make his way around the track and gain confidence in his driving style and more experience. So I think if those were his goals tonight, he's achieved them.
Right, and I guarantee he's learned something every lap that he's made tonight, and that's, for me, that's the kind of beauty of this form of racing is you get a lot of chances to learn from any small mistake or even a non-mistake. You can learn so much while you're out on track, so great to see the progress that he's made this whole race.
We're on board now with Timothy Bernard again, kind of like Will, just gaining experience tonight, turning laps, and just wanted to come out here and join us, be part of the competition, and yeah, just gain more confidence and experience there. Hopefully, we'll kind of let Joe go by him here. Hate to see Joe get caught up in a late race incident that might impact his ability to stay up at P1. So they make their way through the bus stop.
As the leader, it always makes you a little bit nervous when you're this close to the finish, when you're trying to pass a lapped car that's running not so slow, so it's a little bit more difficult to pass. So
yeah, you can definitely see that where I think Joe's being a little hesitant, trying to figure out how predictable Tim is, where he's gonna put his car out on track. Unfortunately, we see Tim there just kind of tap the wall a little bit coming into turn 1. A little wide, and that allows Joe to kind of stay on the inside there and get by him without incident. So. Lap 33 of 35. Looks like we'll get tonight's race in under the lap count before time expires. So Joe's got a pretty clear track ahead of him. James Gleason is just coming out of the bus stop, so I think there's enough of a gap there that that will not be any traffic that Joe will have to contend with. He should have a pretty clean, open track all the way to the end.
yeah, he's really run a very clean, methodical race tonight, so it's kind of no surprise to me to see him up front here as we approach the finish. So I'm sure he's kind of relishing this time on track to be alone a little bit, because it puts him a little bit more in control of his own fate.
Now on board with Joe as he takes the car in here through the infield. As we get ready to come to the end of this race, again, I'd just like to remind everybody, we have one more race left in this inaugural 2020 iRacing Series with Operation Motorsport. We'll be at Silverstone, the UK, in 2 weeks, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That will be July 14th. So please, if you can, join us. If you want to race with us, please get a hold of us. Our website, Facebook, LinkedIn, and let us know if you're interested. You can also contact me, Jason Leach, on iRacing. I'd be glad to get you all the details and have you join us for our final event. After this race, or after Silverstone, we'll be taking a little bit of a break and starting anticipating a new format of iRacing officially. You see Joe took the white flag. He is making his way down into the infield one last time. And Kevin, I'd be remiss if I didn't again thank you for joining me up here in the booth today, being patient as we kind of suffered through some technical audio and video difficulties at the beginning of tonight's practice, but looks like we were able to get everything taken care of and don't think I saw any hiccups here during the race tonight. So again, thanks for bringing your expertise to this event, and wish you luck as you get back onto the track at VIR.
Well, thanks for having me. Honestly, it's a pleasure to be involved, and thanks for everything that you do in Operation Motorsports. I love this organization and what it stands for and what you guys are doing, and I love the uniqueness for how you're doing it. So it's honestly my pleasure to be involved.
Hey, still on board here with Joe as he gets ready to drop down into the bus stop one last time. I think this is actually probably one of my favorite parts of the course here at Daytona.
Yeah, it's really fun to attack the bus stop. Really on a real qualifier lap, and honestly, when you're really pushing, you don't know if you're going to come out on the other side in control or not.
There we go, that'll do it. Joe Kentz takes the checkered flag in P1 in tonight's race. Congratulations to Joe. Congratulations to all of our competitors out here tonight as they made their way through some trying times. At times, some unique, some unfortunate incidents that kind of shook up the field a little bit, but definitely tested everybody's perseverance and determination to get to the end of this race.
That's right. It was exciting from start to finish with lots of things happening. I know a lot of the first lap was very eventful for everybody, but it seems like the race was pretty smooth for some and not smooth for the others. So it'll be interesting to see how people kind of learn from this race and Laguna Seca and take that towards Silverstone at the next event.
Okay, well, again, want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Want to also take an opportunity to thank our partners. Without our partners across the racing community, and other areas, Operation Motorsport wouldn't be able to do what they do. So again, thank you for being part of our team, and we're excited and happy to be a part of yours. And again, you can find us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. You can contact us at info@operationmotorsport.org, and you can learn more about not only our e-motorsports program, but everything else that Operation Motorsport has to offer at https://operationmotorsport.org.
Good run, everybody, and congrats, Joe.
With that, again, Kevin, thank you for joining me tonight. Good luck at VIR, and everybody else, we'll see you in 2 weeks at Silverstone. Take care and have a good night.